Matter of some money, it became money, and yeah, it was a matter of principle. Coppola came to my.
He called him an actor's enemy and said his movies were terrible. Robert Duvall's hatred for this Hollywood giant was so deep, he turned down millions just to avoid him. Their bitter feud got so bad that even John Wayne had to step in and break it up. When asked about working with him again, Duvall's response was brutal. Never. I don't care if I never do. The shocking identity of Duvall's most hated co-star will leave you speechless. Robert Duvall was born on January 5, 1931, in San Diego, California. His family had deep roots in both the military and the arts. His mother, Mildred, loved acting and often performed in local theater. On her side, Duvall was related to Confederate General Robert E. Lee, a connection that would later influence one of his biggest film roles. His father, William, was a highly respected officer in the Navy and became a captain at just 39 years old. Growing up in a military family meant structure and discipline. The Duvall family moved often, living on naval bases in places like Maryland, Rhode Island, and Virginia. Most of Robert's childhood was spent in Annapolis. His father hoped he would join the Navy too, but Robert wasn't interested. He later said he wasn't good at much in school except acting. His passion for acting started early, first at Severn School in Maryland and then at the Principia in Missouri. After finishing high school, he followed that interest and studied drama at Principia College in Illinois. He graduated in 1953 with a drama degree, but life had other plans before he could start acting full-time. That same year, he joined the Army. He served for about a year just after the Korean War ended and was stationed at Camp Gordon in Georgia. His military career didn't mirror his father's. He only reached the rank of private first class and often joked about his lack of military skill. Still, something important happened during that time. He got involved in a local theater production. That small role in a play called Room Service reminded him of what he really wanted to do. In 1955, he made a big move. He packed his things and went to New York City to study acting seriously at the neighborhood Playhouse School of Theater. The school taught the Sanford Meisner technique, which focused on being natural and emotionally real on stage. He wasn't alone. His classmates included Dustin Hoffman, Gene Hackman, and James Caan. They were all young, broke, and determined. Life in New York wasn't easy. Duvall took any job he could find just to pay rent. He sorted mail, worked in retail, and even drove trucks. These jobs didn't involve acting, but they helped him understand ordinary people, a skill that later gave his characters more depth. He shared small apartments with Hoffman and Hackman, and they often took turns sleeping on a fold-out couch. They struggled together, but they kept going. Years later, the three of them would become legends in Hollywood, with dozens of Oscar nominations and several wins between them. Duvall's first real chance came on stage. He got noticed for his role as a troubled man in The Midnight Caller. That performance caught the eye of writer Horton Foote, who later helped him land even bigger roles. Duvall kept proving himself in demanding plays like A View from the Bridge, which won him an Obie Award in 1965. But it was a quiet, powerful film role that introduced him to the world. In 1962, he played Boo Radley in To Kill a Mockingbird. Boo doesn't speak a word in the film, but Duvall made the character unforgettable. He captured the mystery and kindness of Boo with just his eyes and body language. Horton Foote had seen him on stage and believed he was perfect for the role. Author Harper Lee agreed. She sent a telegram to say, simply, "Hey, Boo." To prepare, Duvall avoided sunlight for weeks to look pale and ghost-like. He dyed his hair blonde to match Boo's description in the book. These little choices helped him disappear into the role. The movie keeps Boo off-screen until the end, building up suspense. When Scout finally meets him and softly says, "Hey, Boo," it's a quiet, emotional moment. He turns out to be the one who protects Scout and her brother, not the monster some believed he was. He becomes a story symbol of innocence, the mockingbird who shouldn't be harmed. Duvall originally had one line in the film, but it was cut. In the end, he didn't need words. His performance was powerful without them. Robert Duvall's role as Tom Hagen in the Godfather movies is still one of the most unforgettable in film history. Hagen wasn't just a Corleone family's lawyer. He was their trusted advisor, the man who solved problems with words instead of violence. Duvall played him with quiet strength. While he was part of the family, he never truly fit in. Vito Corleone adopted him as a child, but his German-Irish background always made him feel like an outsider. He wasn't like Sonny or Michael. He didn't chase power or act on emotion. Hagen was calm, logical, and always thinking ahead. When The Godfather hit theaters in 1972, Duvall's performance stood out. Hagen wasn't just a side character. He was present in every major decision, often the one smoothing things over or handling tense situations. One of his most famous moments came early on during a visit to Hollywood producer Jack Waltz. Hagen asked nicely for Johnny Fontaine to be cast in the film. When that didn't work, the Corleones sent a message. Waltz woke up to find his prize horse's head in bed with him. Hagen wasn't the one who made the threat, but he made sure the message landed. By the time The Godfather Part 2 came out in 1974, Hagen's role had grown more complex. After Michael survived an assassination attempt, he left the country to find out who was behind it. While he was gone, Hagen stepped in as acting Don. That showed just how much trust the family had in him. But things changed. As Michael became colder and more ruthless, he started pushing Hagen out. He kept him in the dark, something Vito never would have done. Duvall showed the shift in subtle ways. Hagen never stopped being loyal, but you could see doubt in his eyes. He didn't always agree with Michael, but he stayed by the family. Duvall was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in 1972. He didn't win, but the nomination said a lot. While other characters like Pacino's Michael or Brando's Vito were loud and intense, Hagen was quiet and steady. He didn't need big speeches. He didn't need to yell. His power was in the way he spoke, always calm, always careful. That contrast made him one of the most fascinating characters in the trilogy. When The Godfather Part 3 was announced, many expected Duvall to return. But by 1990, the movie business had changed. Al Pacino was offered $8 million to reprise his role. Duvall was offered much less. He didn't expect equal pay, but when he saw the huge gap, he said no. Later he explained that if Pacino had made twice as much, he would have been fine with it. But when the difference was 3 or 4 times, he walked away. Without Duvall, the script had to change. Instead of being part of the story, Hagen was written out. They said he had died off-screen. A new family lawyer, B.J. Harrison, played by George Hamilton, was brought in, but it wasn't the same. Fans and critics noticed something was missing. Even director Francis Ford Coppola admitted that Duvall's absence changed the whole direction of the film. Originally, the story was going to explore Michael and Hagen's relationship, possibly even a power struggle. But with Hagen gone, that idea was dropped. Many believe the movie suffered because of it. Even though he didn't return for the third film, Duvall never distanced himself from the first 2. Over the years, he shared stories from the set. One of the most famous was about Marlon Brando. Brando didn't like memorizing lines, so he used cue cards hidden around the set. Sometimes they were behind props. Sometimes they were taped to walls. In one scene, Duvall even had Brando's lines taped to his chest. Brando believed that searching for words made his acting feel more real. Some thought it was lazy, but no one could argue with the results. His performance as Don Vito Corleone became iconic. He even won an Oscar for it, though he famously refused to accept the award. Robert Duvall has played some of the most unforgettable characters in film. His roles feel larger than life, yet they always seem real. In Apocalypse Now, he played Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore, a soldier who was both charming and frightening. The film, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, showed the Vietnam War in a dreamlike, haunting way. Kilgore wasn't afraid of anything. He treated war like a game. His famous line, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," became one of the most quoted in movie history. That line says everything about Kilgore. He saw destruction as a kind of triumph and seemed blind to the pain around him. Duvall didn't make that character up out of thin air. His own father was a Navy admiral, and he had served in the Army himself. He knew how real military men acted. One of Kilgore's strangest moments comes when he tells his men to surf during a bombing. It's as if the war doesn't even exist to him. And then there's a famous helicopter scene with Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries blasting as bombs fall, one of the most unforgettable moments ever filmed. Duvall wasn't in many scenes, but every second he was on screen mattered. He won a Golden Globe and helped turn Apocalypse Now into a classic. That same year, he played a very different kind of soldier in The Great Santini. This time, he was Lieutenant Colonel Wilbur Bull Meacham, a tough Marine pilot who was proud in the sky but cruel at home. He treated his family like a squad instead of a group of loved ones. His son Ben took the worst of it. There's a painful scene where Meacham plays basketball with Ben. When Ben finally wins, Meacham doesn't take it well. He gets angry instead of proud. Duvall didn't make Meacham a simple bad guy, though. He found small moments where the character showed he cared, even if he didn't know how to show love. Critics noticed. They said Duvall made Meacham more human than he was in the original book. The movie looked closely at masculinity, pride, and the damage caused by too much control. In the end, Meacham tries to fix things with his family, but by then it's too late. Duvall was nominated for an Oscar for that performance. A few years later, he gave one of his softest and most emotional performances in Tender Mercies. He played Max Sledge, a washed-up country singer who lost almost everything to alcohol. The movie followed his quiet journey as he tried to rebuild his life in a small Texas town. He met a widow and her son, fell in love, and started to change. To prepare, Duvall traveled across Texas, learning how people spoke and lived. He even sang all of Max's songs himself. One of the saddest scenes in the film is when Max tries to reconnect with his daughter. Just as they start to rebuild their bond, she dies in a car crash. It's a heartbreaking moment that shows some chances never come again. The film was gentle and thoughtful. It explored healing and hope in small, quiet ways. Duvall said this was one of his most personal roles. He kept his performance low-key, letting little looks and pauses say everything. He won an Oscar for it. Though the film didn't make a lot of money, it became beloved for its honesty and depth. Years later, Duvall poured everything he had into The Apostle. This wasn't just another acting job. This was his dream. He wrote the script, directed the film, and paid for most of it himself. No studio wanted to make it, but he believed in the story. He played Sonny Dewey, a Pentecostal preacher who inspires people but also wrestles with his temper and pride. After hitting a man in a rage, Sonny baptizes himself and tries to start over in a small Louisiana town. The movie was shot in just 7 weeks. Many of the extras were real churchgoers. That gave the scenes an energy that felt real, not staged. Sonny was both kind and complicated. One of the strongest moments in the film shows him winning over a racist construction worker with nothing but preaching and patience. It showed both his power and his contradictions. Duvall never let the role slip into a cartoon. He kept it grounded. His effort paid off. He was nominated for another Oscar, and many critics praised the film's honesty. It didn't become a blockbuster, but it touched people who saw its raw and honest portrayal of faith and forgiveness. Duvall once said, "That preaching is one of America's great art forms." In The Apostle, he brought that art to life. Robert Duvall's personal life has been as full of twists and turns as his long career. He's been married 4 times, and each relationship tells part of the story. His first wife was Barbara Benjamin, a former dancer on the Jackie Gleason show. They met in the early 1960s while he was filming To Kill a Mockingbird. When they got married in 1964, Barbara already had 2 daughters, Nancy and Susan, from a previous relationship. Duvall was still finding his place in Hollywood then, but soon his career took off with films like The Godfather. Fame brought success, but it also brought pressure. Their marriage ended in 1975. He doesn't talk much about those years, but it was a time of growth for him. Barbara passed away many years later, in 2019, in New York City. 7 years after that divorce, Duvall married again, this time actress Gail Youngs in 1982. She came from a family full of actors, including John Savage, Robin Young, and Jim Youngs. The two worked together on Tender Mercies, the film that won Duvall his Academy Award. They seemed to have a strong bond through acting, but it wasn't enough to keep their marriage going. By 1986, they had separated. Duvall had once said he'd never marry an actress, but he made an exception for Gail. It's hard to say whether working in the same field played a part in their split, but it couldn't have been easy. In 1991, he married for the third time. His wife, Sharon Brophy, was a professional dancer. They connected through their love of dancing, especially Argentine tango. Sharon even became his tango teacher at one point. But even that special connection wasn't enough to hold the marriage together. They divorced in 1996. Unlike Duvall's earlier wives, Sharon stayed out of the spotlight after the split. That same year, something unexpected happened. Duvall met Luciana Pedraza, an Argentine actress and filmmaker. She didn't recognize him at first and invited him to a party. Despite the 41-year age gap, they hit it off right away. Luciana, born in Argentina in 1972, was the oldest of 5 sisters and had earned an MBA before turning to film. Over time, they worked together on movies like Assassination Tango and Wild Horses. Their shared love for tango became a big part of their relationship. They got married in 2005 and have stayed together ever since. Along with their work in dancing, they also started a charity, the Robert Duvall Children's Fund, to help children and families in need, especially in Argentina. Even though he's been married 4 times, Duvall has never had children. He doesn't often talk about it. In one interview, he jokingly said he was shooting blanks. But that's about all he shared. Whether by choice or not, he's never shown regret. As his personal life moved through these chapters, Duvall kept building an impressive career. One of his most loved roles came in Lonesome Dove in 1989. He played Gus McCrae, a retired Texas Ranger going on one last cattle drive with his old partner, played by Tommy Lee Jones. The miniseries was a huge success and brought new life to the Western genre. Over 4 nights, more than 26 million people tuned in. Duvall made Gus warm, funny, and real. He later said it was his favorite role, even more than The Godfather. Lonesome Dove earned many awards, including 7 Emmys. Although Duvall didn't win for Best Actor, James Woods took that one. He did win a Golden Globe. Gus's death in the series was both heartbreaking and powerful. His line, "It ain't about dying, Woodrow. It's about living," stuck with audiences. Critics praised Duvall for bringing real depth to the character. Gus wasn't just a cowboy. He was fully human. In the early 90s, Duvall took on 2 tough historical roles. In 1992, he played Soviet leader Joseph Stalin in an HBO movie that showed Stalin's rise to power. The film was made in Russia just before the Soviet Union fell, which gave it an extra layer of realism. Duvall studied hard for the role, watching old footage and talking to historians. He called Stalin a street gangster full of fear and control. Performance earned him another Golden Globe. In 1996, he played another chilling figure, Adolf Eichmann, one of the architects of the Holocaust, in The Man Who Captured Eichmann. The story followed Eichmann's capture in Argentina and the events leading to his trial in Israel. Duvall portrayed him not as a monster, but as a man who committed evil with cold detachment. It was a disturbing, powerful performance that earned him another Emmy nomination. Even as he grew older, Duvall kept taking on meaningful roles. In 1998, he starred in a civil action as Jerome Fokker, a smart and strategic lawyer, defending companies accused of polluting a town's water. He didn't play the character as evil, just as a man doing his job. The role earned him an Oscar nomination. In 2009, he played Felix Bush in Get Low, a reclusive man in 1930s Tennessee who wants to throw his own funeral while he's still alive. The movie was about guilt, secrets, and redemption. Many critics said it was one of his best performances. Robert Duvall has never been one to hold back. Known for his strong performances and direct personality, he's also known for speaking his mind, especially when it comes to other people in the film industry. Over the years, he's made it clear that he has high standards and little patience for anything less. One of the people he was most critical of was director Stanley Kubrick. At a roundtable interview, Duvall didn't mince words. He called Kubrick an actor's enemy and slammed the performances in some of Kubrick's most famous movies. Even though films like The Shining and A Clockwork Orange are widely praised, Duvall thought the acting in them was terrible. He didn't blame the actors, though. He blamed Kubrick's way of working. Duvall questioned how a director, who demanded dozens of takes from his actors, could even tell what made one better than another. To him, that kind of perfectionism ruined good acting. Duvall didn't just criticize directors from the past, he also had harsh word for modern ones. In that same round table, someone mentioned David Fincher, and Duvall pretended not to know who he was. Once he realized who they meant, he brought up turning down a role in Seven. He admitted he wasn't sure why he passed on the part, but said maybe it was Fincher's style that pushed him away, even if only on a gut level. He also spoke about a tough experience working on True Grit with director Henry Hathaway. Duvall said flatly that they didn't get along. He didn't offer much detail, only that Hathaway's aggressive directing style clashed with his own method acting background. At one point, things got so tense that John Wayne stepped in and warned Duvall to back off or face a punch. It was clear the set wasn't exactly peaceful. Throughout his career, Duvall got a reputation for being difficult, but he had a clear explanation for that. He said the best directors, like George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, and Ulu Grossbard, never had a problem with him. The trouble only came with directors he didn't respect. If they weren't good enough in his eyes, he didn't hide his frustration. Even with directors he liked, things sometimes got complicated. He had a lot of respect for Coppola, but he still turned down The Godfather Part 3 because of a pay dispute. Duvall said he was fine with Al Pacino being paid double what he got, but not 3 or 4 times more. He also joked about how Coppola came to visit him at home to talk about the movie, but ended up caring more about a crab cake recipe Duvall's mother made than whether Duvall would return to the film. With Steven Spielberg, things started out on a high note. Duvall praised Saving Private Ryan and said the opening sequence was one of the most realistic things he'd ever seen in film, but later, their relationship soured over politics. When Spielberg visited Cuba and met with Fidel Castro, Duvall was furious. He called Castro a killer and said it was wrong for Spielberg to act like a diplomat. He even said he'd never work with DreamWorks, Spielberg's company, again, and added that he didn't care if he never did. For Robert Duvall, the film world has always been about doing great work and not putting up with anything less. Whether people liked his honesty or not, he never pretended to be someone he wasn't. After 6 decades in Hollywood, Robert Duvall's explosive confessions have finally shattered the perfect image of one of cinema's most respected legends. From turning down The Godfather Part 3 over money to clashing with Stanley Kubrick and Henry Hathaway, the shocking truth is clear. Beneath his brilliant performances lurked a man unwilling to compromise, even if it cost him millions. His brutal honesty didn't win him many friends in the industry, but Duvall never cared. "The best directors never had a problem with me," he once said, implying the rest simply weren't good enough. This stubborn integrity explains why he walked away from some of Hollywood's biggest franchises and why certain A-listers refused to work with him again. Love him or hate him, Robert Duvall's fiery feuds reveal something rare in Hollywood. A star who valued his principles over paychecks, even if it meant making powerful enemies along the way. The question remains, was he difficult or just demanding excellence?